Hi, my name is Isgate. I'm a real estate attorney in Doylestown. Making this video because I've gotten a lot of calls and emails from investor clients of mine asking what's going on in the rental market as far as evictions and tenants not paying rent, obviously with the coronavirus situation going on. First and foremost, things are going to continue to change. I think everybody is pretty much aware that this isn't over and it's not going to be over anytime soon. And items from the government continue to come out on a basically daily basis. So communication and information is definitely key. Anybody that's a client of mine or has ever dealt with me knows that I think communication is hands down the core of any type of relationship. And I think that's even more in the forefront here when you're talking about a landlord-tenant relationship. So I figured I would hit on a couple hot button issues, both on the residential and the commercial side, because they are incredibly different as far as what's out there program-wise and how the court system is treating them. So first on the residential side, I think we all know that a lot of people are being impacted by this. People are either losing their jobs or they're seeing severe reduction in hours and pay rate. And let's face it, you can't evict anybody anyway. Our Supreme Court in Pennsylvania issued an order staying all evictions until April 3rd. That's this week. I think it's pretty safe to say that they're going to extend that moratorium, especially with President Trump coming out the other day, having the stay-at-home order to the end of April. I think it's pretty safe to say that they're going to extend that moratorium until the end of April regarding evictions. So there's really going to be no doubt that you're not going to be able to evict anybody for the long haul anyway. So what are your options? First and foremost, if you think that any of your tenants are going to be experiencing a hardship, again, communicate with them, reach out with them, check in on them, see how they're doing. If they are having any financial hardships, find out exactly what's going on and get some proof from them. It's not outlandish to ask them for a letter from their employer saying that they've lost hours or their unemployment compensation filing. Again, this is just proof showing that they are being impacted, because while a lot of people are being impacted, not everybody is. So you definitely want to make sure that you do check in to see that their concerns are legit. So the first option is obviously a payment plan. Again, try to make sure that you make the payment plan reasonable and achievable. If it's going to be something that's difficult for them to handle, odds are it's not going to be followed through. It's just common sense. And also make sure you get it in writing as an addendum to the lease. Any types of changes that are going to be done to the lease need to be done in writing and signed by both parties. Again, just in order to be able to make sure everything is tracked and that there's an understanding on what the actual terms are. The other option that you can possibly use, and again, this is dependent upon your own situation, is if you're holding last month's rent. Now, I understand the leverage and the importance of a landlord and an investor holding last month's rent, but these are pretty much definitely different circumstances than the norm. So you can use that, again, in whole or in part, as long as it's being agreed to between the parties in writing. Now, one thing that was brought up in a couple of emails is security deposit. That's still a no-no. You still can't touch a security deposit. That still has to stay held in escrow pending their vacating the unit and being used for damages and then for rent if there's anything due. So you cannot touch security deposit. So that is something that has not changed, will not change. While talking on the residential side, I think it's also important to touch on, from the investor standpoint, your mortgage payments. Now, if you have a mortgage that's a Freddie or Fannie backed program, which is usually 1 to 4 residential units, there may be forbearance options in your loan docs. So again, communication is key. Be proactive. Reach out to your lender. Find out what your options are. Read your mortgage note. See what's in there. See if you have any options to either forbear payments or get an extension or have things added on to the end of the mortgage. But again, you may have options out there, but you really have got to look and see what they are to be able to take advantage of them. There's also grants out there through the state, federal, and local governments that may be applicable to an owner. So again, information is key to be able to get through this unscathed. Now, that's pretty much all I can deal with on the residential side. I don't want this to go too long. On the commercial side, it's a lot different. There are not any of the protections for the commercial tenant out there as far as evictions go. All of the stays and everything basically dealt only with residential. Now that's probably going to change. There is word that there's going to be legislation in Pennsylvania being introduced by Thomas Killian, I believe, who wants to have the same protections be afforded to the commercial tenant just as the residential tenant. Given the course of how everything has been shut down with the non-essential businesses and with businesses shuttering already, this is going to be a very large problem, so I don't think it's going to be very surprising if this bill gets passed. Again, it's, as I said, things change day by day, so keep an eye on that. But I would venture a guess to say that that's going to be passed by the state legislature, and you'll see some sort of moratorium when it comes to commercial evictions. While there's not a lot of protections for the commercial tenant, there's a lot more options out there as far as support, though, from the state, local, and federal governments. There are a lot of programs for grants to be able to have them receive money from the government, especially one in particular is the SBA. It's technically an SBA loan, but if the business owner uses that loan for payroll, utilities, or rent, the key words for the landlord is utilities and rent. If they use that for those items, that loan gets forgiven and it essentially becomes a grant. So I don't want to say it's free money, but again, it's something where if you can educate your tenants on the commercial side and they have those options available to them from the federal government, it's something that they need to take advantage of, because obviously it helps the business owner in the short term, but it also helps the landlord as well, because it'll hopefully keep them from being in default. Now, the program sounds great, but we have absolutely no idea the speed in which it's going to be implemented and how it's going to be carried out. I know they're trying to push out checks to individuals. The presumption is they're going to try to do the same thing for the programs for the small business owners. But again, this is a very fluid situation. It yet remains to be seen as to how this is going to work out. But again, it's something where if you're proactive with your tenant, it's something that you can keep them from getting into arrears too much, or at a minimum, they know they have somewhat of a safety net coming where they know that they'll be able to reimburse the landlord. You know you're in firm footing with your tenants. And again, if you've had these people for a long time, whether they're individuals on the residential side or the commercial side, it behooves you to work with them. I mean, especially on the commercial side, let's face it, when all this shakes out, there's going to be a lot less businesses out there, unfortunately, most likely. So it's going to be just that much harder to fill a commercial space. So it behooves the landlord, if you got a good tenant in there, especially on the residential side, you're going to want to work with them, as long as they're being upfront and honest and they're doing their fair share. You're going to want to work with them to be able to keep them in that property, because it's going to be pretty hard to fill some spaces later on. Again, just trying to think 5, 6, 7 steps down the road. Well, I hope you found this stuff helpful. Again, it's something where this is a very fluid situation. It's going to change day by day. If anybody has any questions, or if you know of anybody that this could be of help to, feel free to share the video. You can also feel free to reach out to me directly. Again, my name is Ron Isgate. My office number is 215-396-1020, or shoot me an email. My email is risgate, that's RISGATE, @isgatelaw.com. I'd be more than happy to hop on a phone call or answer some emails about any questions you might have, because again, this is something that it's going to take a while for all of us to get through. And like I said, information and communication is key. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. Thanks a lot, and be safe.